Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News. After 100T's shock early elimination from the Valorant kickoff, Boostio has been giving his perspective on the state of the roster and there's still potential going into the future, despite Nadeshot's tweet where he heavily implied changes might be considered very shortly to this 100T team. Boostio says no, this team of 5 is still capable of winning the World Championship and becoming by far the best team in the world. Do we believe him? Very much interested your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. We're going to start right about here with yesterday's series. Trace Esports versus Edward Gaming, and this was, I mean, it's such a classic. I cannot believe the plot armor that Edward Gaming seem to have. They've won their own region the last like 8 times in a row or 7 times in a row, and they're just going to do it again. It's remarkable, right? Because Edward will always find a way, it seems, to look a little bit suspect at some point in the tournament. They got slammed by Trace Esports early on in the bracket, 13-4, 13-4. Edward went down to losers. They slammed everyone from there. They made the grand finals. And they did it again. They lost the Lotus 14-12. I think we saw that yesterday. They then bounced back and they won the Bind 13-11. A very close fought one this. And then from there, they pretty much rolled through the series. Well, on the Fracture they did. The Abyss, though, was probably the game changer, really. 14-16 to Edward Gaming. Nobody with a mega map here on the sofa. And then the Fracture was absolutely crushing 13-2 once they'd broken the spirit of Trace Esports. And it was pretty clear that they were going to do it again in the Chinese region. So pretty unbelievable scenes. I know there was this as well where Kankang after the series, you guys can't quite see the quote here, but he says, if EDG had not been born, VCT China would have been in eternal darkness. So, I mean, again, it's main character energy from this guy. But, yeah, impressive stuff. Congrats to those guys again. It's truly unbelievable how many times they've managed to do exactly this in Valorant history now. And yeah, the dynasty lives on in some capacity. An 8-time champion out of the region. I mean, look at all of these results over the last few years. It's not like China, though, doesn't have competition now. These guys won the World Championship last year. They've managed to recapture some of that form in the latter half of the Chinese kickoff that we have just seen. And maybe it's going to work out very well for them going forwards as well. But Trace Esports also looking particularly impressive. Excited to see both of those two teams at Masters Bangkok in the near future. Now, can Gen.G make it? They made some roster changes. They played RRQ yesterday and they got the job done. But wow, was it close to them not getting the job done here. Super competitive series. Foxy9, great player down the wire. Obviously, you know, Meteor's gone. Foxy9, I really was excited about this player when we first saw him come into the scene. He's still pretty inconsistent, but he does occasionally have a pretty mega map in there. RRQ, though, they crushed the map 1 on the Fracture. This wasn't even close. Gen.G then bounced back on the Lotus 13-8 in their favour. Foxy9 with a good one at 20 in 13. And then the Haven was mightily competitive in the ends. It went to an overtime. Jemkin tried his best on the Jet, but it was a 14-12. So it doesn't get much more of a banger series than that, really. Gen.G just about squeezing over the line. And we also have this to keep in mind, that there is, of course, today, Paper X versus Zeta Division. So we'll have a look how that's getting on here in just a couple of seconds, because if you hit the refresh, there is a game that's just concluded, and that matchup is underway. But Nongshim, they just took down Boom Esports. Big result, really, for these guys, because we know that Sinprasa Gaming, as they were previously known, they got promoted through Ascension. Boom Esports were only promoted because Bleeds got kicked out. So it was kind of the battle of the two teams that had made it. Nongshim were the favourites, and well, they got the job done in the end. Reasonably close. Francis with a great series here up top. 13-3 on the Pearl. The Bind, though, went the other way, 13-7, but then Nongshim bounced back with a 13-9 decider on the Lotus. So GG to those guys. Boom Esports out of the tournament early on. As I say, this is the way the upper side looks. It's actually a few days away until we get the next game here, but we do have some losers bracket matchups to enjoy. Certainly Paper X Zeta, right? I mean, Paper X dropping down to losers unexpectedly. The odds are, I mean, yeah, certainly in the favour of Paper X. And it's very early days here. The series has literally just got underway. But yeah, if Zeta win this one, fair play. It will be a big moment in the Pacific, but I'd expect Paper X to make something of a losers bracket run, even though their loss, of course, earlier on to T1 was a challenging one to take when there's only 2 teams of all of these very strong rosters that are going to be able to make it to Masters Bangkok. In EMEA, just to give you guys a quick update on how it's looking, again, we're a few days away. The 29th is when the next games happen in the winners side for Esports Vitality, BBL Heretics, and other things happening as well. But there's not that many teams even left, really. And who are the favourites? Well, that's for you guys to decide in the comment section below. Just as well from Valor Asia, looking at some of these matches, I thought it was exciting to see. But what we did want to talk about again was the big result the other day, 100T versus NRG. Now, this is a controversial moment because 100T came into this tournament, they beat MIBR, and they looked okay in the process. They then played Sentinels and lost, as they always do. They then played NRG, arguably pre-tournament favourites, and they lost again. And both of those, close series, 2-1, stuff like that. So the question is, how much do we read into this about 100T's performance? How good are they? How bad are they? Is it necessary to make some sort of major change? Nadeshot tweeted this out, and there's been lots of discussion really among the Valorant scene as to whether this was a fair tweet or not. Now, Nadeshot, as I've said before, he's a fan of the team, and he is the biggest fan of the team, and he speaks like a fan speaks. Now, is this great? And like that's how he does things. And the team might not be happy about it because I think they would prefer Nadeshot speak to the team or air his frustrations behind the scenes, because Nadeshot tweeting this, incites other 100T fans to, jump on board. But equally, Nadeshot is very publicly putting pressure on his team, and he's just speaking his mind, which I'm not going to complain about at all. And at the end of the day, the players have to step up and deliver in the way that Nadeshot wants them to. But still, as Nate said, we're spinning our wheels in place. Something's got to give. We're cruising at the same pace every year, and it clearly isn't working. Now, is Nadeshot involved in the day-to-day of the team? Does he really know what's going on behind the scenes there in terms of how they're improving and how good they actually are looking? But, we've seen even their scrims against Trust in Plug haven't been the best. They've lost to them a couple of times, and they come to this tournament and they lose to two good teams. What I want to know is how Sentinels and NRG close out the tournament. If both of those teams, Sen and NRG, make it to Bangkok, which both of them very much could, then I think 100T will be reasonably, not happy, but because obviously if they win one of those series, they feel like they could have qualified, but they can look back at the tournament and say, okay, we lost two close series to the two teams that made it to Bangkok. And if you're the third best team in the Americas, that's acceptable enough on some level if you can convince yourself that it's the case. If, however, NRG and Sentinels bow out, if neither of them make it, then I think there's a real problem. If only one of them makes it, there's still a few things to think about. And obviously there are different matchups and stuff, but I think it is relevant for Thieves how those teams they lost to get along going forwards. So wanted to share a great interview that Boostio did after the result against NRG, talking about a few things, and he was discussing various topics, how hard he's been trying to improve. Obviously his own individual play in that series was not the best by any means, but also how himself and Zix, the coach over there, formerly of Evil Geniuses together, they are trying to make this 100T roster as good as EG were. They're trying to structure everything in the way that they structured EG, that won the World Championship. But is that actually a good idea?
No, it definitely sucks. Like I said, this loss is definitely like one of the worst losses I felt. I do think we're like so good. Like in that MIBR match, we showed bits of Sen. Today was definitely not our best day, but overall, we're still like, I think we're really figuring out our issues this year compared to last year. It kind of took us a long time to figure out our issues last year. And this year, I feel like we're getting a lot done, and it's only a matter of time before we're insane.
I think so too. Because you seem really confident about the ceiling of this team. From what I've seen from past interviews as well too, right? And like you talk about, like, especially between your performance and this team specifically, you're like, yo, this team, this is it. Essentially was the vibe I constantly get. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the core stuck together another year, like the four of us, besides Bang. And Xander adds like a pretty good voice to the team, which is like one of the bigger parts of what we needed. So I think he has a lot of impact. And the first thing I said was, yeah, me and Tony stay together. Three other teammates that stayed with us. And I feel like we solved so many problems last year, and new problems are coming up, but like we're solving them like way quicker than last year. And like we're just coming up with really good ideas. And like we think like I said, we try to mimic old EG as much as possible. And if we can do it, we will be the best team in the world. So I just think our ceiling is so high that I could see us winning a Masters, a Champs, a Split. So like I think I'm just gonna stay confident. Hopefully, can win big matches, but I do think this year's team is way better and we're way more prepared to win like big matches.
Yeah.
I think for me, I have to play better. There's no other answer. And then I'm very excited for the rest of the year. I think we could be insane.
What do you guys think about Boostio's perspective on the current state of 100T? Because I'm not going to lie, watching them play, I've not seen anything really in their play. There's been some good moments, but I've not seen anything that makes me think, wow, these guys really have like insane potential again. To me, Xander coming in, I guess he's been helpful. I know that Boostio said it, that in the comms he's quite helpful, like he's communicative. He's been okay, but he's not had the ceiling or the impact that Bang used to have on the roster they had before. Obviously, Cryo, Asuna, neither of them had their best series. Boostio, though, was, he had a difficult time. He was minus 30 over the course of it. But is Boostio and Zix's idea of trying to mold this team into EG actually the way to do it? Looking at the players and saying, okay, you are going to be our Demon 1, you are going to be our Jorgama, and all, like, does that really work? Or, because the meta changes over time, and I'm not sure that this team, maybe it needs its own identity, the idea of just making it evil geniuses, it's probably only ever going to be EG but worse in that scenario, right? Like, if you're trying to mold this team on what EG were when they were at the peak of their powers, it's probably only ever going to be an inferior version of that. So I think that would be my concern here really with Boostio's approach to this situation. But look, he looks at their play and he feels like they've got a lot of potential, a lot of firepower and a high ceiling, but they've not been able to execute it. And they've got to come to a conclusion as to why. Do they need to approach their practice in a different way? Like with Sentinels, for example, they have the Qubit Academy they can practice against, kind of like a set academy. Do they need to partner with a Challengers team to get practice against that team more regularly, put themselves in more precious situations? I don't know. But the reality is that they played 2 important series against 2 excellent teams, and they managed to lose both series, especially on the bind here, the final map, in a way that was not impressive at all. So I think there's a lot to say about 100T. I totally get Nachot's perspective. I get what Boostio says though as well about, well, it's only a couple of series and we played them pretty close, which is true. And that's the challenge about the way this format currently is. You can even see it on Nachot's tweet here, right? If we look back at it, on the replies, Chet says the tournament structure is brutal, which is absolutely true. You play 2 series, who knows really where you are in terms of how good or bad you are, because you're not played much. If it was after stage 1 and you've played 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 series, then you've got a better idea. But if you haven't, then who knows really where to sit and also what change to potentially make. So very interesting. Boostio is clearly pretty happy with keeping things as is, but equally, if there was anyone to be changed, Boostio might be a guy on the chopping block potentially, just because of his individual performance there and the fact that his approach to making the team as good as possible doesn't seem to be working right now, although he believes it will be working in the future. So I don't know, I'm not convinced personally, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll leave the full article for you guys linked down below as well in the comment section or in the description box below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.